Looks impressive. So, hello everyone. My name is Roman, and I'm here today to present this wonderful talk. Actually, I work at JetBrains and Kotlin team, and I'm in charge of Kotlin Moonshots team. And Kotlin Moonshots team is a team that is looking for new areas and new applications for the Kotlin programming language that we crafted at JetBrains. And you know what is bad about innovations? They constantly push you forward. And actually, I've submitted a talk like a few months ago, like there's a long process, selection, and all this kind of stuff. But the problem is that, like, since that time changed a lot. And I decided to make a completely different talk today. And why? Because like literally yesterday, we finished the development of a new and shiny feature, actually about integrating Kotlin Notebooks and Spring. And I think you're gonna like it. By the way, who use Spring? Great. Actually, I'm not like real Spring user, right? But I'm gonna pretend. And who use Kotlin? Oh, also quite a lot of people. Great. Today gonna be lots of live coding. I'm so dumb that actually I'm gonna have a live coding session in the recent nightly. And it's gonna be fun, I think. So let's start. Today's agenda. We're gonna talk about what are Kotlin notebooks and how can they be used with Spring. Then we discuss the concept on the fly types generation inside Kotlin notebooks and how it's applicable for Kotlin Dataframe library. And in the end, I'll show very impressive stuff, actually, how this concept can be implemented not in notebooks, but like generally in Kotlin, we are magic of compiler plugins. And yeah, so let's start. Kotlin notebooks. Probably I need another idea. Nice. What is Kotlin Notebooks? Actually, currently it's a plugin. It can be installed separately in IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. Oh, nope, it should be here. So it's already installed here. But like as soon as you installed it, you actually have an ability to create a notebook in your project. So let's say, and actually, yeah, this project is just a pet clinic example. In plain Java, there's no single Kotlin line in this example, and it's for a reason. I actually want to show how amazingly interoperable Kotlin with Java, and especially and Kotlin notebooks also quite benefit from this interoperability. So, and here now I can create a new notebook. Great, let's call it my first notebook. Did you have experience with notebooks? Probably Python notebooks, Kotlin notebooks? Yeah, way less number of arms. So first of all, notebooks, it's not only about data science or something. It's kind of interactive console. So for instance here, oh, and I need to change one thing here, 1 second. I can, for instance, type something, and it's gonna start the kernel process. Yeah, it's a bit long for the first execution, but every next time it's blazingly fast. And yeah, so it can actually execute any code. You can, for example, use anything from Kotlin standard library, and here you are. Of course, some standard library is already available here. Also, notebooks can actually have dependencies to modules from your project. So I can, for example, tick this one. But like for this, I don't need it. And also for all libraries that you have in your project. So by default, they all used, but you can actually pick the ones you need. Okay, what else about notebooks? Like you can declare variables. It's pretty simple. And you can use variables, and you can redeclare variables. And for this, you just rerun the previous cell. The interesting story, and yeah, everything divided in cells, every cell has an output, but you actually got it. You can actually use, for example, this A in upper cell, and it's gonna work, but don't do it. I mean, like, the best practices is actually to write the code this way, so you can actually rerun it from scratch and it's gonna work. But the thing is that, like, you can do it because there's some mutable state that you change when you run code inside the notebook. Okay, I'm gonna delete it here. Let me think what else should be here. Yeah, so also let's take a look at like types of the cells. So there could be cells of type code. And actually, what is very important, you can include new libraries in these cells. For example, using this use magic, I can include some popular libraries in Kotlin ecosystem, but like you can include any library. I'll show it a bit later, but for popular libraries we have some shortcuts. So yeah, and it actually goes to Maven Central, download this Kotlin serialization library, and voila, now we can use it. So now I have this serializable and can define some data class. Well, it's pretty slow in typing when I share the screen. I don't know why. Okay, great. We now have this thing, and we can now take our JSON, encode to string this cool test. Actually, because that's a small bug here. Test. It's pretty slow in sharing screen mode. That's it. So works. You can experiment, you can prototype, and so on. This one you get. Markdown. Actually, you can create markdown cell, type some markdown inside, and execute it, and it's going to be compiled as a markdown. It's some like just a template that I prepared. Also, there are ability, you can actually use like output of the notebooks is not just text. It can be any like HTML, for example. So for this, you can use this HTML tag and write something like, I don't know, like p hello p, and yeah, here you are. And or something more complex. For instance, I was really inspired with this thing and asked ChatGPT to write me something like this, and now it's so I can use some file which I prepared here. So it's located in main resources devox HTML, and I need to read this text. Cool. And now it's following my mouse. Not really. Something is broken. Yeah, sometimes it's not interactive enough. You know, it's pretty hard task, by the way, to render a browser inside a JVM application. It's not that easy, surprisingly. So, but yeah, and also the last type of the cells, it's actually AI cells. It's more like AI generation for you. So, for example, I can ask return buffered image with JetBrains logo, and run it. Hopefully our internet connection is stable enough. Great, I can run it. Oops. Can't get input. What? Oh, it's actually, no, it's a cheat. Actually, draw it with primitives. And the cool story, I don't see what I'm typing because it's lagging. Let's rerun it. So you can rerun and see the result on the fly, pretty easy. And yeah, now I have it. And let's run it. Not really like our logo, but it can be definitely improved and so on. And then you can actually accept it and use. That's it. So that's basically it about Kotlin notebooks. But you probably noticed that there is one strange thing. This file has a very strange extension, IPython notebooks, which sounds like what? Why? Like it likes from this meme, I think. Like it's, but actually it's for a reason, because Python is Python notebooks have a versatile and well-established ecosystem. For instance, I can click this create gist button, and it's gonna create me a gist with this notebook, and it's gonna be rendered properly on GitHub with all images and so on. So it's way simpler to reuse this standard, this protocol, and so on. And the cool story about notebooks, now they all running, like, okay, let's take a look at the schema, how it all works. They actually, all this stuff currently in IntelliJ IDEA. But like you can, for example, take only kernel and run it inside ordinary Jupyter notebooks or on Google Colab or Datalore, or whatever. Also, like these IPython notebook files, it's also standard, and you can share it with anyone, and it's going to be properly opened and rendered and so. But internally, it's just a simple JSON file. So we, of course, can call it KTNB, but there is no need for it. But what is really important on this image is that, like, currently it's all inside IntelliJ, but it can be like a bit different way. So we can, for instance, take a notebook and kernel and move it into our process, our Spring process. And we are going to the next part, actually, how to use all this stuff together with Spring. So let's first add one dependency in build Gradle that actually gonna initialize our kernel inside our application. So that's actually it. You are done with the preparation. So now I can run it. Pretty slow, 10 seconds. Let's check that it works. Great. And yeah, and this time I'm gonna create a notebook as a scratch. Actually, like you may think about notebooks like as scratches, but like really well done scratches. So let's create a Kotlin notebook as a scratch, because often you don't really want to have it inside your project, but like it's one-time thing often. So, okay, now I have it as a scratch. And now this thing which I did in the beginning of the talk, I'm gonna attach to the running process. Actually, it will use localhost and some standard ports, but you of course can tune all of them. Okay, and let's see how it now works and if it works. Great. So, for instance, now I can declare all bins, and voila. Now we have, for instance, owner repository bin. That's it. Very simple. So now I can actually manipulate my Spring application on, like, on my fingertips. So let's do something. So for instance, let's find all the owners. It's pageable. Okay. Let's see total elements. And actually, like, we have no owners. Actually, it's on purpose. It just was a test application, and the database is empty. And if we go to our application, check it here. Yep, no one was found. So let's add them. Let's add them using notebooks. Okay, great. So for this, I'm going to use this wonderful library, which called Java Faker. I like it. Just very simple way to fake some data. So, and I need this code to actually use it. So for this, we have very simple syntax. Oops, not this one. It's something, but this one. And just copy these dependencies here and change it from Groovy to Kotlin. Oops. Cool. Now it's downloaded and we have this library. Let's take a look at some example. For instance, this one. Oh, dude, it's supposed that you understood that it's Java code. Oh, this time it understands it. Yep, great. Yeah, it works. I actually probably, yeah, let's take a see and take a look what, for example, name. Yeah, super. So I don't need this stuff. I just need this faker class, faker object. Okay, so let's fake first a pet. And yeah, so probably we already have this pet, and we can create a pet, apply, and what pet has. You see, it's like it's a console, and we actually have all the completion, all the stuff, and so on. So first should be type. Where should I take type? Probably it should be in the owner repository. Cool, indeed. Okay, call it types. Yep. So it's gonna be some types random. Great. So next we need some name for it, and it's gonna be faker. That's tricky because like it can provide funny names, but for people, I have a bad idea. Actually, it can create names from Lord of the Rings. And what else? Probably I need birth date. Cool. And it's gonna be faker date, birthday, and what it has, minimal and maximum age. Okay, from 1 to 15. Probably pets are not that. And it's currently date, and it should be local date. And for this we're gonna create an extension function which converts date to local date. I've actually prepared it in advance. So, yep, and import audio, and this one as well. Great. So now we have this function which can be efficiently used. Great. So we actually created a random pet. would be great also create visits for this pet, right? So like we can pop, like it probably has, yeah, add visit thing. So we can create a random next in like 7, I don't know, like probably it's enough. Add visit apply, and there should be description, which I'm gonna fake using disease name, for instance, and some date or something. How it's called? Date. Yep. And I'm gonna fake it as well. Fair date and some like date in the past. 365 and days. Cool. And also to local date. Super. Now we actually created a pet with all the visits. That's the longest code I'm gonna live code. So now I like just create a, call it as a function, fun fake pet. Great, now we have it as a function. And for owner, we're gonna make exactly the same thing. So fake owner. Super. So here we create a random last name, first name, address, telephone, and add 1 or 2 pets. That's it. Let's take a look. Okay, super. It seems to work. Actually, I think that, for instance, like name sometimes consists of 2 parts, so I'll probably make it substring before space. Yeah, now it's better. Okay, and the last thing we have to do is add all these owners into our application. So like owners repository. So we needed, I don't know, like 100 owners repository, save, a fake owner. That's it. Run it, and it fails. And it's very important that it fails because of the validation, because I've forgotten about this thing. And if you write the test, in that case, like you wait until you start it, you open it, and sometimes application is not that fast to start, and you have to always think about like all this stuff in advance. We still are on running applications, so we can just fix it, and it fails because telephone must be a 10th digit. And okay, let's take a look and experiment with it. Where is the telephone? Telephone is here. Oops. Let's try to stop. Yeah. Oh yeah. They look weird, and they all different. So we probably need to just use digits and take last 10 digits, because sometimes it includes the code. So we just filter it is digit and take last 10. Super. And now it's all done. So let's go and see. Yep. So I've actually faked all the initial data and state of my application, and it all works. So very simple to start, very simple to use. And like speaking about like applications, you can, for example, you know probably this feature in IntelliJ IDEA, when you want to call some function which hard to call from the UI or something, and you need to call it using this scheduler task. But actually, it's way more than this. So it's like provides you faster feedback loop. You can easily bring the state you need, troubleshooting and debugging in production if your security teams allow you to put it in production. And it's easier for prototyping, some prompt testing, tuning, and so on. So quite a lot of different applications. And for instance, here I would like to write something like this. Nope. Oh gosh. Where's my live template? Clear all. Yeah, cool. So now I defined the function that's going to delete everything we've added. And yeah, so and we can just call it. And voila, we are in initial state. So the next thing is actually manager came and said, dude, we're going to have a nice, very important presentation of our staging for client. And this data looks too much artificial, too fakey. It's going to be on DevOps, and like we need that viewers have some personal attachment. And you say, really? Okay, I'll try. And I thought that like probably every speaker on DevOps should have a pet. And let's try to take all our speakers and upload them as users of our pet clinic. Actually, when you go to call for paper and submit your talk, I've noticed that there is a small button here in the system which called public API doc, and it's some Swagger schema, so you can easily take, for example, all the speakers. And like, let's play with this API. And do you know the like simplest way to play with some REST API in Kotlin? Obviously, Kotlin Notebooks. So let's use one more library for this, which called Cater client. Actually, it's just HTTP client. It can be any, but like we're going to use this one. Now we have this HTTP object, and I first show, then I explain what's going on. So we're going to go to this API, and we also, let's copy this part, and voila, it works. So, okay, let's take a look at the result. Cool. So, but I actually want to check, like, because it's just a string, which is like not really good enough for me. So I want to deserialize it and store it in some function or some property, and let's call it speakers list. Okay, and what a nice timer. So now I have a speaker list. And you know, you know what? I actually can, for instance, take a count on them. Oh, they just 20. It's because it's pageable. Okay, so I'm gonna add here size. Yeah, now I have 201 speaker. And what is really cool is actually, for example, let's take a first one. And it has all the fields inside. So what happened here? I've actually, because I was using it inside Kotlin Notebooks, the library Cater client was integrated it in pretty smart way. So when I write this use Cater client, it's download dependencies. But it's not only dependencies. It also adds some default imports and it can define some visualizations. For example, it defines how the strings which are JSON should look like in the rendering. Also, there's a number of callbacks. For example, when the library was loaded, this small HTTP thing was defined as a default client. Then we have a callback on creation of every variable, and that's how works this magic with deserialized JSON. Because when deserialized JSON returns deserialize this, and when it sees that variable of this type is created, it runs generation process and substitute this variable to the actual type. And also there are callbacks before and after code executions and many, many more. So, and it all defined on library side. It's not it's a feature of this particular library. And I encourage you, if you have some libraries, think about possible integrations with Kotlin Notebooks. It's pretty flexible. And it's always up to date because every time you publish a new version of the library, the descriptor of this library automatically merged in Kotlin Notebook. So it's an automatic process. So it's like a very smart shortcuts. And speaking about our task, now I have this speaker list. Let's probably check that there is, for example, I can find myself here. First name is Roman. Not is. Yep, it definitely looks like me. And yeah, now I actually can do the stuff I wanted to do. So I just take speaker list. I said that for each, I want to add save. And here I need to define owner again, which is simply to just copy and paste from the previous part, but substitute the stuff we need. So let's go here and say oops, it should be first name and it last name, and that's it. And we run it. Good. Let's go and check if everything works. Nope. Josh? Oh, probably. Yes. That's great that someone see it. So now, oh, this is so great. So I have actually clear OData. I've run it. I run this one. Good. And for example, let's look for Brian. Nope. No, it should work.
You're looking in the field last name, and you're using a first name. In the path.
You mean here?
Yes, the field is last name, so look for a last name.
No, I don't think so. Oh no, it actually works. Indeed, indeed. So yeah, I actually have a yeah. My Gimli cat is pretty strange, and Denator snake as well. So yeah, now we have this personal attachment here. Okay, let's continue. And that's pretty cool, but there is one thing. So let's play a bit with this speaker class that was created. So let's take a speaker, speakers list, and okay, let's do some grouping on them. Group by it company, and just calculate it. So count each, and then I want to sort it because otherwise it's going to be yeah, I want to calculate how many people from each company are among the speakers. So I need to convert it to list probably then, and then I can sort it because it was a map sorted by it second. Sorted by descending. That's it. Oh yeah, cool. And but it's not cool because actually you see, for example, Google Cloud here and actually Google here, and like it's kind of, for me, it's like the same company, right? So, and the story is that I want first update somehow this data and add some company ID or something. And now it's a problem because if I want to add this company ID, how can I do it in Kotlin or Java actually as well? The first obvious solution is actually just copy, like, and create a new speaker with class with company ID, but it's weird because like too much copy pasting. I actually can create something like this, but in that case I have a nesting which I don't want to have, and it like this nesting for nothing. Also, I can like try to use inheritance, but unfortunately data classes are final by default. I can create this pair from speaker to string, and string gonna be ID, but it's still a bad thing because like in that case you get this famous Kotlin code with lots of second, first value, key, and all this kind of stuff. Actually, it's something that we got here already, like because I can't recall what is second here already. And the last thing, if you really know Kotlin, you can create extension property. But the thing is that this extension property is still a function. It's not a property. And it will not work with serialization and other stuff. So the thing is that this speaker class can't be easily extendable. And it's okay, it can be extendable somehow, but if we want, for example, delete something from class and so on, it's quite hard. But we want to clear the data first before grouping. And here, the example when you usually have it, and it's like some gateway that took some data, give some, like it grabs some JSON, produce new JSONs and all this kind of stuff. And the issue is that every time you actually need to create a new class. So for instance, like on reading, then on this black dot, because it's like some initial preparation of the data, and then you produce new JSONs for desktop and mobile version and so on. So you have a lot of mapping DTO objects in your application. And it's like usual stuff for us. So I wanted to show you how Dataframes can help in this. So what is actually Dataframes? Dataframes, it's essentially a table, and every object is one line. And every column actually has its own name and type. And you can then reorder it, you can delete it, you can add, you can do, for example, some grouping like we did in ordinary classes, and then you can, for example, do some pivot. So let's take a look. So for instance, here I will just first I need to add my data frame, and then I need to take this speaker list and say I want to convert it to data frame. And hooah, cool, it's now a data frame. And let's call it somehow. Speakers data frame. And yeah, so this speaker's data frame now actually has exactly the same. So for example, I can take this code. Okay, let's take this one for instance. And speakers data frame. Speakers, shit. Oh, I didn't run this cell. Yeah, sounds very Dutch. We're in Netherlands. So, oh, sorry. Uh, I just live in the Netherlands, that's why I'm. Yeah, so I can group it by its company, and then yeah, syntax is a bit different, but more or less the same. So cool. I actually did exactly what we just did, but yeah, we wanted to add a new field. So before doing it, we actually yeah, let's add a property which gonna called company ID and calculate it as a company and before substring before space, and it's nullable, and actually we can for instance add something like this, and then here I actually want to use this company ID. So this company method was generated on the fly. But the problem is that company ID can't be generated on the fly because we're actually in the same cell. So like we generate code between cells and execution. So here I can actually, the simplest thing I can do here is just like refer as a string. And yep, here we are. Yeah, now Google have 6, not 5, like in previous example. Good, we have now this NA and so on. So, or I can actually say that, okay, it's with ID and call it like this, and then use this with ID, and now grouping can be by generated property. Company ID. Now we have it. So, okay, cool. Let's probably, I don't know, do something else with it. So I want to, let's say, I want to plot it. That would be a nice example. So for here, for this, we have Candy library, which is GVM plotting library. And now I can actually plot it and say that I need some bars, and x goes to count. Actually, yeah, the thing is that we still don't have this count now because count created right here. So it's going to be like this, and y goes to company ID. And let's draw it. And yeah, let's order and take a number of them. So sort by, again, count, descending, and take top 15. Cool. Now we have like the top companies with biggest number of speakers for this conference. And the cool story is that Dataframe is like, oh yeah, speaking about Candy, it has lots of different visualizations. You're gonna like it, check them. But also, Dataframe is pretty like neat in terms of its hierarchical. And that's probably the last thing I'm gonna show today. So we actually can group several columns and include Dataframe inside any cell. And it sounds crazy on the first side, but like if we switch back and take this where it was, yeah, okay, I'll take this one. So, and just read data frame read. I need JSON. Yep. So I'm gonna read the JSON file, and probably I don't need this one because I'm gonna read talks. And talks is a JSON, but it's like some JSON with nesting. So I can open it separately. So for instance, like every talk has the IDs and other stuff, but also it has, for example, track or session type. And it's actually object inside object. Or it can be speakers, and speakers, it's like an array inside any object. So when you go deeper, you can see the data frame of these speakers for every talk. And you can manipulate with it in Dataframe, so you can select any column, move it somewhere, and make it flat, make it more nested, and so on. That's a very efficient way to manipulate JSON and then store the result in this JSON. So in our Scratch file, I can now, for instance, take these talks and talks and do something like, for example, oh, I need to run it. Group by track name. It's actually like what kind of, like, if it's data science talk or something. And then if I do it, I already see that like my name and all the talks in this group, which is like very nice way to like work with groups. So then I can, for example, make some aggregation and calculate average favorites. That's like the measure of interest into average interest. And what else? And for example, count into count. And now I have a aggregation by type and number of talks and average interest. Would be interesting to see how it all gonna looks like, for example, in a plot. So I can say, well, for plot, store it, and now let's plot it with points. So x goes to count, y goes to average interest, and for instance, I don't know, color goes to name. Oh, here we are. So we see that, for example, data and GenAI, we have the biggest number of talks in this category, but at the same time, the average interest is pretty low. At the same time, we have just like a few talks for architecture with really high average interest. And of course, Java is like pretty high in both directions. So, but the story is that yeah, this information could be probably interesting to organizers of the conference. But anyway, the last thing which I want to show you in the last 1.5 minutes is actually that this stuff with generation of the properties can actually work inside ordinary Kotlin code. So I just call it while talks and import the schema. And now talks actually has all this stuff. And what is really cool, we actually can take okay, let's take this thing. So we can group by track name, like exactly what we did here, but here we still can address even freshly created columns. For example, we can now sort by this average interest. So what happened here? So we created average interest column in the grouping, and it's already available in the next in the same statement. So it's done via the magic of the of the compiler Kotlin, how it's called, Kotlin compiler plugins, so we can constantly evolve the schema on the fly, and it actually makes this process of evolving the schema along the application way more convenient. And I believe that it's extremely prospective technology, and hopefully you're gonna use it in future. So today we looked at Kotlin Notebooks with Spring, how to generate types of the fly, and also how Dataframe can work with it, and how to generate these types even in normal Kotlin code. Thank you.